At first, there is nothing unusual about them. Just birds. Different shapes, different colors, different places. Some are bright, some are quiet. Some you notice, and some you almost don't. They feel like part of the world. Natural, expected, easy to understand. Because birds have always been there. In trees, on the ground, above the water, somewhere in the distance. You don't question it. You don't stop to think about it. You just see them and move on. But something changes. Not in the birds, in the way you look at them. It doesn't happen all at once. It's slow, almost unnoticeable. At first, it's just a feeling, a small hesitation, like your brain takes a second longer than usual, as if something doesn't quite fit. But you can't explain why. So you ignore it, because that's what you do with things that don't make sense. You move past them. You focus on something else. But then, it happens again. You look at another bird, and for a moment, it feels the same. Not wrong, just slightly off. And the strange part is, it's not about what they are doing. It's about how they are. The way they stand, the way they look, the way they exist in the space around them. There is something too precise, too balanced, too exact. You wouldn't notice it if it happened once or twice, but it doesn't stop. It keeps repeating. Different birds, different places, same feeling. And slowly, your attention starts to change. You stop looking at them casually. You start looking more carefully. Not because you want to, but because something in your mind is trying to understand, trying to find a pattern, trying to explain why this feels different. And that's when you begin to notice something else, something even more subtle. The timing. Not when they move, but when you see them. Because it always feels perfect. Not lucky, not random. Perfect. You look somewhere, and there they are. Exactly where your attention lands. Already there. Not arriving, not reacting, just present. As if your gaze didn't find them, but revealed them. That idea doesn't make sense, so you push it away. But it doesn't leave, because every time you look again, it happens again. A different bird, a different place, same exact feeling. And now it becomes harder to ignore, because patterns are difficult to dismiss. Your brain is designed to find them, to recognize them, to trust them, even when they don't make sense. So you keep watching, not just the birds, but the way they appear, the way they are placed, the way they seem to exist exactly where they need to be. Not too early, not too late, exactly when you notice them. And slowly, the feeling changes. It's no longer just curiosity. It becomes awareness, a quiet understanding that something is consistent, something is repeating, something is structured. And once you feel that, you can't go back, because now every new moment carries expectation. You look somewhere, and you already know there will be one there. And when there is, it doesn't surprise you anymore. It confirms something. Something you still can't explain, but something that feels real. And that's when the question changes. At first, it was simple. Why do they feel different? Now it becomes something else. Why are they always exactly where I'm looking? And that question stays, because there is no easy answer. There is only the experience, the repetition, the pattern. And the more it happens, the more natural it begins to feel, which is the strangest part of all, because something that once felt unusual now feels expected, normal. And when something unusual becomes normal, you stop questioning it. You accept it. You adapt to it. And that's when it becomes part of how you see the world. Now, when your eyes move, you don't just look, you anticipate, you wait. And when it happens again, you feel it immediately. That quiet confirmation, that subtle certainty, that strange sense that something is always in place, always ready, always present. Not by accident, not by chance, but with intention. And that thought changes everything. Because if it's intentional, then it's not random. And if it's not random, then it means something. Even if you don't understand what, even if you never will. And now, you can't unsee it. Every bird you notice, every place your eyes land, every moment your attention shifts, it's there again, repeating, consistent, exact. And slowly, very slowly, another idea begins to form, one that feels even harder to ignore. What if it's not about them being in the right place, but about you looking at the right place? What if your attention isn't random either? What if it's being guided? Not obviously, not directly, but subtly, just enough to feel natural, just enough to feel like your own choice. And if that's true, then the pattern becomes something else entirely, not something you observe, but something you are part of. And that realization is the one that stays. Because once you consider it, even for a moment, it changes the way everything feels. Now it's no longer just about birds, it's about perception, about attention, about the invisible structure behind what you notice. And the next time your eyes move, the next time your focus shifts, the next time you look somewhere new, you won't just be looking, you'll be wondering, was it always there? Or did something lead me to see it? And once that question exists, even quietly, it never really disappears. Because from that moment on, every time it happens again, you'll feel it. That same subtle tension, that same quiet certainty, that strange awareness that maybe, just maybe, nothing you're seeing is as random as it feels. And once that thought settles in, even slightly, you begin to notice something else, something you didn't pay attention to before. It's not just where they are, it's how long they stay. Because most things in nature don't hold still for long. There is always movement, small adjustments, tiny reactions, constant change. But here, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes they remain completely still, not frozen, not tense, just perfectly still, as if movement is unnecessary, as if nothing around them requires a response. And the longer you watch, the more that stillness begins to feel intentional, not natural, not accidental, chosen. And that's when another question appears. If they don't react, what are they waiting for? Because waiting implies something, a moment, an event, a signal. But nothing happens, at least nothing you can see. The world continues as it always does. Wind moves, light shifts, time passes, but they remain, unchanged, unmoved. And slowly, you start to feel something unusual. Not fear, not exactly, more like awareness. The kind that makes you look twice. The kind that makes you pause longer. The kind that makes you question something you normally wouldn't. Because now, it's not just about where they are or how they appear. It's about how they exist in time. And that's harder to ignore. Because time is supposed to affect everything. Everything reacts to it. Everything changes with it. But here, something feels different. Some of them
don't seem to follow it the same way. And once that idea appears, it connects with everything you've already noticed. The placement, the precision, the repetition. It all starts to feel less like coincidence and more like alignment, as if they are not just part of the environment, but synchronized with it, not reacting to what happens, but existing exactly when they need to, exactly where they need to, exactly as they need to. And that level of consistency is difficult to ignore, because consistency suggests design, not randomness, not chaos, something else, something structured, something deliberate. And the more you watch, the more you feel it, not clearly, not fully, but enough. Enough to make you stop thinking of them as separate, separate from the moment, separate from your attention, separate from everything else. Because now they don't feel separate. They feel connected to the space, to the timing, to you. And that connection is subtle. You wouldn't notice it if you weren't paying attention, but now you are. And once you are, it becomes harder to dismiss. You begin to notice how your own movement changes, how your eyes pause longer, how your focus shifts more slowly, as if something is guiding the pace. Not directly, not obviously, but gently, just enough to influence where you look next. And when you look there, it happens again. A bird, already in place, already still, already present. And now, that moment feels different, because it's no longer surprising, it's expected.
And expectation changes perception. It turns randomness into pattern. It turns coincidence into meaning. And meaning is what your mind is trying to find, even if it doesn't fully understand it, even if it never will, because understanding isn't always necessary. Sometimes recognition is enough. And you recognize this now. The placement, the timing, the stillness, the repetition, all of it working together, forming something you can feel but not fully explain. And that's what makes it stay. Because things you don't understand but can't ignore tend to linger. They stay in your thoughts, in the background, quietly present, just like the birds. And even when you try not to think about it, it returns, in small ways, subtle ways. The next time you see one, the next time your eyes move, the next time your attention shifts, it's there again. That same feeling, that same awareness, that same quiet question. And this time, it feels even stronger, because now you're not just noticing them, you're anticipating them. And anticipation changes everything. It creates a loop. You look, you expect, you see, you confirm. And then it repeats, again and again and again, until eventually it no longer feels like a pattern you discovered. It feels like something you were always part of, something that existed before you noticed it, something that continues whether you understand it or not. And that realization is the one that stays the longest, because now it's not just about what you're seeing, it's about your role in seeing it. And that's a different kind of awareness, a deeper one that doesn't go away easily. Because once you consider it, even for a moment, it changes how everything feels. Now every moment carries weight. Every glance matters. Every shift in attention feels intentional. And that intention, whether real or imagined, becomes part of your experience, part of how you interpret the world. And once that happens, it doesn't fully go away. Even if you try to ignore it, even if you move on, even if you tell yourself it's nothing. Because the next time it happens, and it will, you'll feel it again. That same subtle certainty, that same quiet realization, that same strange sense that something is always exactly where it needs to be. Not randomly, not accidentally, but precisely. And the more you think about that, the more one final idea begins to form. Not loudly, not clearly, but enough to notice. If everything appears exactly when you look and nothing feels out of place, then maybe what you're seeing isn't just happening around you. Maybe it's happening with you. And once that thought exists, even quietly, it changes the way you experience everything that comes next.